In a small mountain village, a few people were nervously watching an old horror movie in a local theater. On the screen, a little boy stood there with a strange smile, and suddenly, a terrifying creature emerged from his swing, wreaking havoc inside the theater. That moment marked the beginning of a terrifying chain of events, one that would shake the entire Derry town. Sitting in the very last row of the cinema hall was Mantu, a poor orphan boy. Suddenly, an employee came storming in angrily, shouting, "Hey, you sneaked in without a ticket again!" Mantu quickly jumped up and ran. He had secretly come to watch the movie for free, but the projector operator saved him, knowing that Mantu had no home. His daughter Rowney also helped by lying, saying the boy had already run away. Walking down the snow-covered road, Mantu's lips had turned blue from the cold. He kept blowing on his broken little toy whistle as if it gave him courage. Suddenly, a car stopped in front of him. Inside was a family of 4 who, at first glance, seemed very kind. The woman smiled and asked, "Son, where do you live?" Mantu softly replied, "Anywhere, as long as it's far away from this village." The car started moving again. On the radio, news was playing about a malfunction at a nearby nuclear testing site, and strange incidents were being reported in the area. Animals were behaving oddly, and some people were showing bizarre symptoms too. Gradually, Mantu began sensing that something wasn't right inside the car. The little boy kept repeating the same word over and over. The older sister was eating some slimy substance and offering it to Mantu too. The parents just smiled, acting like everything was perfectly normal. Mantu noticed that the car wasn't actually leaving Derrytown. Panicking, he shouted, "I want to get out of here!" But it was as if everyone had gone deaf. They just kept repeating the same word. "Out! Out!" Terrified, Mantu tried to grab the steering wheel, but his hand accidentally touched the woman's stomach, and then he realized she was pregnant. Suddenly, the woman screamed in pain while the rest of the family began swaying in excitement. Right in front of Mantu, she gave birth inside the car, but the baby was not normal. Its eyes were blood red, and a strange hissing sound came from its mouth. Mantu's scream echoed against the car windows, and just then, a strong wind blew. His toy whistle flew out of the window. 4 months later, no one at the village school even remembered Mantu anymore. Only his 2 old friends, Phil and Teddy, still talked about his disappearance, and a shy girl named Lolly still placed flowers on his bench every single day. Not far from the village, at a nearby air base, 2 pilots landed. They were informed that their mission was to monitor secret experiments happening near the border. The area was completely fenced off, labeled a special project zone. No one knew what was really going on there. Henlon and his partner Polly had just arrived at the base, where they were greeted in a rather unusual manner. Standing there was a tall officer with anger clearly visible on his face. The base chief, General S., gave Henlon a cold look and said, "There will be no unnecessary drama here." After a brief welcome ceremony, he added, "Meet me in my office tomorrow afternoon. We have something very important to discuss." Meanwhile, in town, Phil and Teddy were walking home from school. Phil, as usual, was peeking through the window at the lady across the street, while Teddy was still lost in thoughts about their missing friend Mantu. 4 months had passed, and there was still no news, no clue, no trace of him anywhere. Teddy guessed that maybe Mantu had run away from home, but Phil couldn't believe that. He remembered how, on Mantu's birthday, Teddy had only agreed to come after Mantu promised him money. Since that day, Mantu hasn't spoken to him. Teddy snapped, "You're the reason he was so upset." But the scene changes and we see Lily looking at the bracelet on her wrist, the same one Mantu had given her as a birthday gift. That day, Mantu had called her to the old city tower, which had been closed for years. The 2 of them stood on the rooftop watching the city lights shine below. Mantu gave her his favorite thing, a small turtle-shaped pendant, and said softly, "You came. That's all that matters to me." Lily opened up her heart too. She told him her father had died in a factory accident, and she still blamed herself for it to this day. Just then, fireworks started bursting in the sky. The new year was about to begin. The atmosphere turned romantic. Mantu leaned forward a little and tried to hold Lily's hand, but she quickly pulled away in panic. That small moment weighed heavily on Mantu's heart. Without saying a word, he walked away. Now, whenever Lily looked at that turtle-shaped bracelet, she couldn't help but feel that she had something to do with Mantu's disappearance. That night, while she was taking a bath, she suddenly felt like someone was calling her name from below. The voice was coming from the bathtub's drain pipe. She bent down to listen, and out of nowhere, a few fingers stretched out from inside the pipe and then vanished. Lily trembled in fear. She told her friend everything, saying, "Maybe Mantu is trapped down there. Maybe he's the one calling for help." But her friend laughed and said, "Don't be silly. No human could survive inside a drain." Still, Lily was sure that what she saw wasn't a dream. Eventually, she went to Teddy and Phil, the only two people who were truly Mantu's friends. But even they found it hard to believe her story. Teddy said, "If he's really in trouble, we'll get some kind of sign." That night at dinner, Teddy nervously asked his father, "Has anyone ever been trapped underground or inside pipes?" His father stayed silent for a moment, then spoke in a serious tone. "Son, your great-grandfather survived a prison camp during the Independence days, but the people who were held there, they weren't human anymore. They turned into beasts." He went on, saying the guards were so cruel, they even made lampshades out of the prisoner's skin. Hearing that sent chills down Teddy's spine. His father snapped angrily, "You need to stop reading those horror comics. They're messing with your head." Then he grabbed Teddy's favorite comic book, tore it up, and threw it away. Later that night, when everyone was asleep, Teddy secretly took out the same comic and started reading again. Suddenly, the light in his room began to flicker. He thought the bulb was loose and got up to flip the switch. But the next moment, something happened that made his blood run cold. A human face appeared on the lampshade. He fell to the floor in fear, and the lamp began moving toward him on its own. Hearing Teddy scream, Phil ran in. But as soon as the door opened, the terrifying sight was gone. Still, a new doubt took root in Teddy's mind. The next day, Teddy, Phil, and Lily met again. They decided they couldn't leave this case to the police anymore. They would have to search for Mantu themselves. First, they went to the city library and started digging through old newspapers. Teddy's little sister followed along because it wasn't possible to leave her alone at home. The old records said Mantu was last seen near the cinema. A girl named Ronnie had said she saw Mantu going somewhere after the movie, but then he disappeared. When the three friends met Ronnie, she looked very upset. "I've told the police this 100 times. I don't want to remember it anymore," she said. As they were leaving, the film casually remarked, "That's strange. The song coming through the pipe near Lily's house is the same song that was playing in the theater that night." Hearing that, Ronnie froze. "Wait, I heard the same song through the theater's pipeline too," she added. Now everyone's suspicions were confirmed. The three of them jumped on their bikes and raced toward the cinema. The old reel machines were playing that same old show, Mantu's favorite song. Ronnie said, "Let's run the film again. Maybe we'll learn something." Meanwhile, at the airbase, Squadron Leader Henlin arrived at General Shah's office. He was told he was being assigned a new secret mission, a test flight of a new bomber. If necessary, he might have to penetrate enemy territory to carry out the operation. Hal smiled and said, "I'd even sacrifice my life for my country." That night, he returned to his room. While closing the window, he caught a glimpse of a stranger's reflection in the glass. But when he turned around, there was nothing. Exhausted, he lay down. Suddenly, two men broke through the door. They were dressed in full bodysuits and masks, holding pistols. They demanded, "Where's the data for the new aircraft?" Hanlon stood firm like a rock. "You can take my life, but I'll never give up my country's secrets." Just then, the door burst open again. His fellow officer rushed in, and the intruders fled. Hanlon now realized this mission wasn't going to be as easy as it seemed. Meanwhile, the three kids were sitting in a movie theater watching a film. When that same old song started playing, everyone was stunned. In the middle of the crowd stood Mantu. His face suddenly turned strange. He spread his arms wide, and the terrifying creature sitting on his lap flew straight out of the screen. It was larger and more horrifying than ever before. Lily and the others screamed and ran, but the monster was as fast as a rocket. By the time Ronnie panicked and ran out of the projection room, only Lily was still alive inside the hall, covered in blood, holding someone's severed arm. And that was the story of the first episode of Trudgeheed. Welcome to Derry. Half the team is gone in the very first episode, but the amazing thing is, the series has perfectly captured the same terrifying vibe and tension of the movie. Now the question is, can it maintain that tempo in the next episodes? A new episode drops every week, featuring the same old Derry town, mysterious forces, and that classic kids versus evil feel. So tell me, so I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, don't turn off the lights. Thanks for watching.